In viewing this channel, some may wonder, what exactly does electronics and music have in common, other than the fact that electronics is heavily used in music reproduction? Well, in this video, I'm going to go over 3 aspects that make up music and electronics. It is not often mentioned, but music and electronics both revolve around 3 guiding principles. There are 3 things of which musicians and electricians or electronics engineers are keeping in mind when designing circuits and when musicians are making music. For music, the composer or the improviser is usually concerned with 3 main things. That would be melody, harmony, and rhythm. Now, what are electrical designers, electronics engineers concerned with? Well, they're also concerned with 3 things as well. Electrical designers are concerned with 3 major components when designing a circuit, and that would be AC and DC voltage, for number 1. Number 2 would be frequency. And number 3 would be limitations. Number 1, we always have to be concerned with the voltage in our circuit, not just the voltage that we're using, the voltage that we're trying to convert or manage, but also the voltages that we want to get out of a certain circuit. Let's say if we want an op amp to run at a certain amount of volts at the input or the output, and we want the next stage of that circuit to run at another specific voltage. This is why AC voltage is very important, and DC voltage is very important as well, because 1, we need it to power our circuits, and 2, we need to manage DC voltage so it doesn't go in the wrong places and damage our components or any external items that we might be plugging our electronics device into. Now keep in mind that this list is mainly for audio electronics, though it does apply in other realms. Number 2 would be frequency. So when we're building circuits around the transmission of an AC voltage or a DC voltage, we also have to keep in mind that every capacitor and resistor junction or RC junction will affect the frequency in some way. So we always have to keep track of this. Let's say, for example, if I want to eliminate the passage of DC voltage going to a certain area of the circuit, I have to keep in mind that this capacitor that I'll use to block that DC will also attenuate the frequency in some way. So I have to manage my DC voltage attenuation with the frequency as well, because these two things can change simultaneously. Now, number three is limitations. Now, this corresponds to both number one and number two, because not only will we always have limitations that pertain to the components that we're using, but we'll always have limitations that we self-impose on the circuit itself. So we might want the circuit to only operate in certain envelopes to a certain degree. Maybe we want it to only be able to take in a 1 volt input or a 3 volt input and only have a 10 volt output. Maybe we only want it to be able to pass frequencies up to 20 kHz, which is very common in audio, for more reasons that we can go into later, but primarily because we're not trying to absorb any other frequencies like RF frequencies, AM frequencies into our electronics. So we're constantly putting limitations on our circuits. So these are the three things that an electronics engineer is going to keep in mind when developing a circuit. On to the musician, we have the three things that a musician is going to consider. Say, for our purposes, since this is a channel that mostly focuses on improvisation, the improvising musician is always going to be concerned with first his melody, harmony, or rhythm. He or she that is improvising will always be focused on trying to play something melodious that sounds enjoyable and kind of represents the music in a meaningful way, but is only doing that insofar as it also reflects the harmony in a meaningful way as well, and is only going to do those two things insofar as it reflects the rhythm that's happening while they're developing that melody and that harmony. So here we have three components. These three components, as I hope you can see now, really dictate the world of music and also the world of electronics design. Both areas are dictated by these parameters, these three different goals that they both have set into them as one, either the electronics engineer or the improvising musician or composer is trying to keep in mind when they're developing their ideas. There we have it, the three major components of electronics design and music. So they have a little bit more in common than it might seem. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you.